Welcome to the DX Today podcast, where you get the facts and no hype.
It's good to be here, Alex.
We are settling into 2026, and the tone in the enterprise sector has shifted dramatically. If you look back just 2 years ago, the boardrooms were driven by FOMO, the fear of missing out. Today, that sentiment has inverted. The new reality is a fear of missing ROI.
That is exactly right. The checkbooks were wide open in 2023 and 2024. Now, the bills are due, and CFOs are staring at cloud computing costs that have risen nearly 20% in the last year alone.
The honeymoon phase is officially over. It seems like a harsh wake-up call.
The divide is stark. On one side, you have high performers, mostly in tech and telecom, who have figured out how to integrate AI into their core workflows to actually drive earnings before interest and taxes.
What defines that trough? Is it a lack of adoption?
Paradoxically, no. Adoption is high. McKinsey reports that 78% of organizations are using Gen AI in at least one function. The problem is scaling.
Only about 1/3 of organizations have managed to move their AI programs from the pilot phase to enterprise scale. So we have high activity, but low value realization.
Exactly. We saw companies grafting AI tools onto broken analog workflows. They automated bad processes instead of redesigning them. You can use a large language model to draft an email faster, but if the underlying workflow is inefficient, you haven't transformed the business. You've just made a bad process slightly faster.
Let's look at the timeline of how we got here. It feels like 2023 was the year of discovery.
That's right. Governance was non-existent. Then 2024 became the year of experimentation. We saw hundreds of proofs of concept, or POCs. But 2025 was the year of cost shock.
And that brings us to 2026.
The year of discipline. The market is pivoting hard towards frugal AI and rigorous financial operations.
Speaking of cost, let's dig into the economics. The report mentions that the unit of value has shifted to tokens. How does that change the IT budget?
This is the single biggest headache for CIOs right now.
Traditional software is a capital expenditure. You buy a server, you buy a license, you know the cost. AI is an operating expenditure that scales explosively. You are paying for tokens, chunks of text processed by the model.
And it's not just the output, right?
No, and that is where the bill shock comes from. Complex reasoning tasks require massive context windows. Those are your input tokens. If you have an AI review a 50-page legal contract, you are burning thousands of tokens just to ask the first question.
Epoch AI's 2025 report highlights that while the price per token is dropping, the volume of usage is outpacing those price drops. There are hidden costs in there too.
Absolutely. It's not just the model. You have vector databases for retrieval augmented generation. You have embedding costs. Real-world data changes. If you don't continuously reground and reevaluate your models, which Luminova AI identifies as a top blocker, your expensive AI starts giving you bad answers. That maintenance is a significant operating expense that most initial budgets ignored.
I want to talk about where this money is going versus what it's producing. We see this concept of horizontal versus vertical AI.
This is the trap. Most companies bought horizontal AI, generic tools like Microsoft 365 Copilot. They help with broad tasks like summarizing meetings or writing emails. McKinsey notes that while 70% of Fortune 500 companies use these, the benefits are spread thin and are hard to see on the bottom line.
Versus vertical AI?
Vertical AI is specialized. It's trained on proprietary data for a specific purpose, like legal discovery or drug development. It's harder to implement, but the success rate for ROI is significantly higher.
Let's switch gears to the risks. We used to talk about shadow IT.
It has mutated. Shadow IT used to be an employee using Dropbox without permission. Shadow intelligence is an employee pasting your profit and loss statement into a public chatbot to get a summary. Gigster's survey found that 57% of employees are still hiding their AI use from IT.
That is a massive data leakage risk.
It gets worse.
Define that for us.
Agentic AI refers to autonomous bots that can execute tasks, not just chat. They can send emails or update databases. McKinsey says 23% of organizations are scaling these systems.
That sounds ominous.
It is. Imagine a low-level scheduling agent that interacts with a high-level database agent. If they aren't governed correctly, the low-level agent might extract sensitive data it shouldn't have access to.
There's also memory poisoning, where attackers inject malicious instructions into an agent's database, causing it to act maliciously days later. So we have high costs and high risks. Let's look at who is actually making this work. The report highlights Walmart.
Walmart is a prime example of vertical AI success. They didn't just deploy a chatbot. They used AI for route optimization in their supply chain.
What was the impact?
They avoided 94 million pounds of CO2 emissions and eliminated 30 million unnecessary driven miles. They applied AI to physical operations, moving goods, rather than just digital text. That is hard dollar savings you can take to the bank.
On the flip side, or perhaps a more complex side, we have Klarna.
Klarna is fascinating. They aggressively replaced 700 full-time support agents with an AI assistant. Initially, the ROI was incredible, an estimated $40 million in profit improvement.
But the story didn't end there.
No, by mid-2025, we saw a pivot. The AI was great for rote tasks, but it lacked empathy for complex disputes.
It proves that efficiency isn't the only metric. If you over-automate, you degrade brand value.
And then we have what the report calls boring AI in the industrial sector.
Boring is profitable. Look at the North Sea rig case study. They used AI to analyze vibration patterns on a pump. The system flagged a failure hours before it happened. That prevented a multi-million-dollar shutdown and reduced rig downtime by 28%. It's not flashy, it doesn't write poetry, but it saves millions.
Looking ahead to the rest of 2026 and beyond, where is the technology going?
The era of one giant model to rule them all is ending. We are shifting to small language models, or SLMs. These run locally or in private clouds. They are cheaper, faster, and leak less data.
And how do companies manage the traffic between these models?
Through frameworks like Route LLM. Think of it as a traffic cop. If you ask, draft a patent application, it routes it to an expensive reasoning model. That dynamic routing is how you control ROI.
Finally, let's wrap up with the strategic recommendations for the CIOs listening. What is step one? You cannot manage what you cannot measure. You need to know exactly how much it costs to answer a customer query or generate a report. And regarding security,
you need an AI TRISM framework, trust, risk, and security management. You need an inventory of every agent, sanctioned or shadow. The report suggests a red, yellow, green policy. Green for private internal models, yellow for enterprise licensed public models.
And red for free, public tools, those need to be banned via the firewall.
And the final recommendation on value?
Demand vertical value. CIOs need to stop approving generic co-pilot pilots without a business case. Every pilot needs a defined time to value and P&L impact before it gets a single dollar of funding.
It sounds like the gold rush is over and the real work has begun.
That's the reality. It's time to stop chasing hype and start engineering value.
Mike, thank you for breaking this down.
My pleasure, Alex.
And thank you for listening to the DX Today podcast. We'll see you next time.